Hello, everybody. KMK back at you here on the NASCAR Pinty Series Power Hour on G-Force TV. We're back. Happy New Year. Hope you had a Merry Christmas. Glad to see you all back with me here on the channel. We're still waiting here in NASCAR Pinty Series fan land for some news. Things have been very quiet over the holiday season, but hopefully we'll be able to see some news come quickly. Some of the stuff that's been rumbling around isn't the best news, I guess. I think that there's still lots of questions to be answered. Lots of interesting topics to go over, but we're going to have to double check in making sure that we have essentially a lot of fun stuff to go over, because as of right now, no schedule has been announced. We don't have overall. We don't have a ton of driver news heading into 2023 so far, and we really don't know what is going to happen this year. Obviously, last year we had a lot of fun. Great 2022 season. I'm going to start things off today with a bit of a new segment, and that is a classic hero card. We're going to do that each and every week, hopefully, and showcase drivers from the past from the NASCAR Pinty Series, dating back to NASCAR. And what we're really hoping is to just showcase some of the history from the series. And if you're here along with us, we've got an interactive activity to do, and hopefully we'll have a bunch of fun, because I'd love to hear about people's opinions, and I'd like to hear what your thoughts are. We're going to do a NASCAR Pinty Series track tier maker. Now, if you don't know what that is, it's basically a list where you put stuff in an order that you prefer. And so we'll go through the tracks from 2007 to 2022. Obviously, we don't know what's on the schedule for 23 if we're going to have any new tracks, but it'll be fun. First one on our Classic Hero card. Our Classic Hero card for the day is brought to you by our good buddy Sam Putnam and Sherry Putnam. They provided us these old Classic Hero cards, and so we're going to start off with actually one of my favorite drivers, and that would be Brad Graham in the Challenger Motor Freight Pontiac. This is actually a signed one. We look at Classic. There he is right there. He's not that young anymore, but still love to see it. If you go back and you get to see all the former partners they had on the car. Of course, he's a former Sportsman Series champion. See that really nice looking 19 Pontiac there. The one thing that hasn't changed with time is hero cards. If we take a look at the champ himself, I got to see Brad several times in the NASCAR Super Series when they raced at Peterborough Speedway and at Motorsports Oval. Those were the tracks that I went to as a kid, and Brad was always the one guy who, for whatever reason, I really felt like that was like my Dale Jr. back then, and I thought he was a cool customer, and finally went crazy to see him win out in Vernon, BC in the Logos Dodge. And Brad is always somebody fun. When I look back at all the paint schemes he had one of my favorites, which was the Full Throttle energy drink. He had a trio, the red, blue, and the black car. I can't tell you which years, maybe 2007 onward. Still kept the colors around as he went later on. And Brad would be somebody I'd love actually to see in like the Ontario Sportsman Series or do a Pinty's race once in a while. He is there. I mean, he was worked on cars, I believe, for Jim Bray, and so he's still around. But I know I believe his kids are racing, and hopefully we'll get to see him do some fun stuff in the future. So that's well, hopefully we'll get to do that in a couple more episodes this year. We'll showcase some of the classic cars. No, there is no more Mosport Oval, unfortunately, Jim. It as part of Canadian Tire's purchase of Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, the speedway needed to go down, and unfortunately, what they used it for is they use it for the test track. Right now, it's part of the training facility. I mean, Terry can probably confirm this a little bit more, that it wasn't really in the best of shape. I mean, it wasn't really the best of shape when I saw it years ago. And so the investment, I think, to put the money into the speedway would have been a little too much, and Canadian Tire wanted to make a pretty big facility that is worldwide, and I think right now, obviously, there's a lot of interest as to what's going to happen with CTMP. Obviously, IMSA is going back there, but we really don't know where else. See, Chester's hanging out in the back there. We really don't know what else is going to happen. We know the trucks are not going back to CTMP. They're not going back anytime soon. There's been talk if they are going to have a NASCAR race in Canada, that Circuit Gilles Villeneuve or Trois Rivières would be the main choices. Maybe a street race. But I if it were me, obviously I think CTMP is still pretty good. It's not up to the Cup standard right now. So unfortunately, nope. Mosport Oval, want to go back and say 2013 perhaps was its last time that it was standing. And unfortunately, a lot of the tracks that are going to be in the tier maker today, they aren't still around. And so we'll be bringing back some memories. We'll be talking about races out there, and I'll be curious to see what people think, because there's people that have seen more racing than I, especially back in CASCAR. And yeah, it says it was in need of repave, bleacher issues, and lighting. Well, that's a lot of expense, and it's probably just not worth the investment for them. The racing was okay. I think there's a lot of people that didn't like that track. I, of course, I grew up on it, so obviously I wanted to see it as much as possible. But we're going to do something fun when it comes to our schedule, and when it comes to tracks that we've seen in the NASCAR Pinty Series. And this is something that you can do if you go to to www.tiermaker.com. That's TIERMAKER.com. You can search up NASCAR Pinty Series. And what you'll be able to do is do your tier maker as well as when I'm doing it, and I'd love to see what your thoughts were. So we're going to switch over here to before we get to the tier maker. We were lucky enough at Stickers and Scuffs to take a trip this past weekend, and we ended up going to White Motorsports and White Motorsports in London, Ontario. So we've taken some of the video here, and you'll see some pictures rotating around of the facility. White Motorsports obviously builds race cars. They put the chassis together. They also have a Pinty Series team. Glenn Stiers, Mark Dilley, TJ Ranamato, Andrew Ranger, and Brendan Watson last year. There will be changes with White Motorsports in terms of the Pinty side this year. I can't speak to those changes myself, but there's roster changes for sure. I can confirm that, and this was already confirmed last year, that Andrew Ranger is back, so that's not going to change. The 27 car is back, and what other changes are going to take place with the team, they will more than likely will announce themselves. But Andrew Ranger, of course, is already confirmed in the 27 for next year. More than likely, Glenn Stiers as well, back in the zero car. He's already been out there doing testing and doing all sorts of fun stuff. But as far as I know, there are going to be changes made. White Motorsports did say, we can mention that there's changes, but that's as far as we're going to go on that. As for what they are, I would like to know what. There's been some rumors flying around, but again, one thing that they said at WMI, we had a great tour guide and Jeff Wilcox, former NASCAR Pinty Series official, a shop foreman for them at White Motorsports, and he said, the one thing with racing is that, you just never know, and that's the really big thing is that you don't know. I don't know what's happening with EHR. I don't know what's happening with DJK. I don't know what's happening with Dumoulin's. You just don't know until the releases come out. Yeah, the jerseys are. This isn't even a jersey, man. This is a long sleeve tee, Reegs. This is again, but they do have the jerseys. They do have decals. They have hats. They have water bottles. I mean, Paille is doing exactly what race fans in Canada want. They're doing merch. You actually see WMI here. What's cool is you see at that last little bit there, they actually have parts. So if you want to come in, you're missing some parts, you can buy parts at their shop. And I mean, that's awesome. They've got a fabrication. That's what they're known for. They're known for their fabrication, and they're putting together some bodies, and they've got some Mustangs in there, some Chevys. I don't know if I've seen a Dodge. They're building cars from ground up. They've got engines in there. They've got parts all over. You see they've got a late model for Glenn Steyer's there. Brandon Watson's late models there. Ex-Royal Canadian. So schedule, I wish I could tell you. I was told prior to the new year that it was going to come out. They were just my understanding and what's been told to me from people within the series is that the holdup is paperwork, unfortunately. Again, when Tony Spiteri was on the show, he did tell us that their plans are to also get the schedule for 2024 out next summer. So like this summer, not next summer, this summer. So and that's much earlier than what we typically do. So what my belief is that what they're actually doing is they're securing dates not just for this year but also for next year, and then the legality stuff, the paperwork, the legal documents, that is what the holdup is right now. Now, I've heard rumors of going to do 2 races out in Atlantic, Canada. I've heard 1 race now. I've heard 2 dirt races. Now I've heard 1 dirt race. There's just a lot of stuff that I think is still happening, which is complicating things. We already have some confirmations, though, and that is that we know for sure that we're going to Edmonton. We know for sure that we're going to Ohsweken. We know for sure we're going to Eastbound Park. We know for sure we're going to GP3R. We know for sure we're going to Delaware. It's likely that we know for sure that we're going to ICAR. Canadian Tire Motorsport Park is likely. Sunset is likely. And Sutherland is likely. So the only real questions, like for me, are Toronto, and really if there's going to be any additional races, because things have already been kind of confirmed elsewhere. So the schedule is, I mean, I'm pretty sure it's based off of what Tony had said, is most of it is done. Like the schedule was done. It's just now legality. And coming from somebody myself, I work in a law firm, I can tell you that stuff takes a long time. Riverside is, yes, ex-Royal Canadian. That is a rumor. I can't confirm because I don't know whether it actually is going to happen or not. Granby was another one that was initially announced, and it's been all quiet now, so I don't know. It was the Quebec Press that had released an article about Granby happening for 2023, and now I'm not sure, because again, there's been such delays for the schedule that I do think, though, that it's going to look very similar to last year. What basically Tony kind of said was that it would look very similar. Obviously, one of the bigger changes is that we know Ohsweken is going to be doubleheader. So If that means like two races at Oshweekend, then for sure we're going to have more races this year. But if it's qualifying is going to be on the Monday and then the race is on the Tuesday, then it makes a little bit more sense as to kind of what the double headers, what they mean. But I don't expect anything crazy with like the announcements. I think it's either the rumors are true or they're not, and that's basically it. Unless something insane happens, I don't know. Right now, though, I'm excited because obviously we know it's going to happen. It's going to come. Like, the schedule will come out. It's just the waiting. And hopefully the waiting is because they're getting 2024 done as well. The one thing that they're going to want to do, and the one thing that they're going to need is they really, really need to get 2024 announced in the summertime, because budgets for the 2025 or 2024 year are going to be due. Or no, I guess 2025, right? Because we're doing 2023 schedule this year. No, 2024 schedule. The budgets are going to be started in fall 2023. And you can't release the schedule after all the budgets are being put together for the next year. That's where we lose a lot of possible sponsorships, is because of that reason. Partners put, and a lot of businesses are doing this, that they put their budget for the next year together in the fall. They don't wait until the next year to do it. So Jim says, Rig Zero, I bought one of each 96 and 27. They fit the same t-shirt sizes, not light or tight or loose on the sizes, and they ship them to the US fast. So for you guys, even faster. Yeah, Riggs, you can, I believe on Instagram, you can even purchase them. I believe they have a connection right to the shop. Last count though, I believe Rangers was sold out, his jersey. So you might want to check that. I know they had to replenish those. But we're up to the fun. And this is the tier maker. Okay, so I put this together today. It is on tiermaker.com. And you just search NASCAR Pinty Series tracks. Or just NASCAR Pinty Series. It's the only one, I believe, for NASCAR Pinty Series out there. Might be one or two other ones. But as you see, there are a list of tracks here. And these are all tracks that we have raced on from 2007 onward. The NASCAR Canadian Tire Series is what we started on. That's why we got the Canadian Tire hat on today, supporting the 22 racing guys. And then, of course, all the way up to 2022, and that's why we are supporting the GM Paillet. It's not the 96, it's the 27 shirt, but definitely supporting those guys. And we're going to go through, and I'd love to hear from people what they like, what they don't like. You can do your own tier list and share it on social media as well. See what other people like and what they don't. A lot of pressure on this one for me today, because I really haven't had the opportunity to think about it so much. So you've got favorite. It's a favorite track of yours that you liked races on them. And then you've got liked it. It was good, but it wasn't your favorite. Like, you liked it. It was a good race. Meh. Really no opinion on it. Not a fan. And then never seen. So not a fan, meaning you don't like races there. They're not very fun. They didn't interest you. And then never seen, meaning you've never watched a race or never attended it. Because those are, again, different experiences. Like for somebody like me, I haven't been out to Vernon, but I've watched races at Vernon. So that's where we're going to go. Now, I'll tell you, and I'll be honest with you, I'm going to like a lot of these tracks. It's just the reality. I love this series, so a lot of my choices might not be the same as yours. But we're going to start off. We're going to go through the list here. Riegser has already finished his list, which is great. So we're going to start off with Autodrome St. Eustache, RIP. Love this racetrack. Races here, tight bullring, very much a good source of great racing. Tight racing, really one groove, not around the outside, but what I liked as well is that St. Eustache had that runoff into turn 1 and 2, so that if you did have trouble, you could drive the car like into the grass and not just plow it into the wall. Jason Hathaway, of course, has the distinct pleasure of closing this track along with others. But for me, I liked St. Eustache. Not a problem. Was it a favorite track of mine? It's really close. It's not up to a favorite only because I didn't get to see that many races there on television or on in person. I never got to see it in person, which is always going to bring a track down. But I definitely put it on the high section of liked it. Okay, because that's kind of the way the tier list works, is that best of the best goes kind of top to bottom. Edmonton International Raceway. Now, this is a tough one because Edmonton's, again, it's another short bull ring. Do I find that the races there, do I remember them quite often? I can't say I do. The other thing, too, is what makes it hard when judging races and racetracks is whether or not the fields are big enough, whether there's a lot of things that go into it. But for me, Edmonton is up there. Is it better to me than St. Eustache? I kind of like St. Eustache more. So I'm going to go with Edmonton. I do like it. But it's going to go right along there. Now, I'm sorry, St. Eustache, and I'm sorry, Edmonton, but Eastbound Park parked its way into a favorite position of mine. I love this track. I absolutely love it. I think that it is a gold track for this series. I love just the layout. I think it's really cool with the different types of banking. I like Owl. This is the track list for the NASCAR Pinty series, and we're going through and figuring out. You're basically able to put. You're just making lists, man. It's a way to put your favorites in order and comparing them on social media. It's a way to just attract a little bit more attention to the series, and I just want to see what people like and what they don't. Eastbound Park, right up there. I like the elevation changes. I love that it's got a drag strip right on the front of it. It's an awesome track. Not to mention the Newfoundland fans, the Atlantic fans. Holy crap, are they just amazing? So yes, Eastbound Park is up there as a favorite track for me. It really is. And for a track that's not even in my home province, I absolutely love it. Barrie Speedway. Now, Barrie Speedway is no longer with us. And an NR 2003 is the only way you can actually access Barrie Speedway right now. The only reason it's not higher in the liked it is because it was carnage. It was so tight, lots of wrecking. I never got to see it, though. It sucks. I was so close to being able to see a race at this racetrack. And it looks like I've got actually 2 Eastbound Park logos there for some reason. But Barrie Speedway, RIP. To me, it does just squeak above Edmonton. But Barrie Speedway, RIP, it's going to go right in there. I like it. It's just, it doesn't beat Autodrome St. Eustache for me. I don't know what it was about St. Eustache. Now, Ohsweken Speedway, this might be a bad opinion, but it's mine, and I'm allowed to have it. You're allowed to have yours as well. I can't judge Ohsweken. There's been one race. Did I love the finish? Yes. Did I like the racing? Most of it, yeah. Do I think it could be better? Yeah. Were there moments where I was like, yes, there was. So for me, it's only going to go meh for now. Because the plan is to see it this year. The plan is to see it. I'm still not used to seeing race cars on dirt. So I'm still getting used to that. Dirt racing is still not my thing. We're going to go next to missing Eastbound Park. I've already done that one. So Edmonton Indy. Now, I don't know how many people remember this. That they used to do the airport track out in Edmonton. And I absolutely hated it. I didn't find the racing very good at all. Whether or not it was fun to drive, whether or not the crowds were great, it's about what we like. Really, I can't say I ever liked this track. maybe it's just the cars and airport circuits, but there was a couple different layouts that they used, and they were with the Indy cars, and the Indy cars seemed to put on a better race. Riegser says, St. Eustache and Edmonton are meh for me. I find they're love it or hate it. The chaos, especially with lap traffic, can be wild, but I'm also looking from a driver team perspective. I mean, and that's the thing, right? I love St. Eustache really because of that openness in turn 1 and 2. I like that with a narrow front straightaway, more open turn 3 and 4. I love that track, but again, that's I think what people can be met about is the racing itself, but also if you are a competitor. For me, Edmonton, Indy. Oh yeah, honestly, Cleveland is way, way better. Yes, I would love to see them on Cleveland. That was crazy, them rocking into turn 1 there. But Edmonton, Indy, I can say I was not a fan. We did have some amazing turnouts, but just not great. Flamborough. Okay. Now, from a track perspective, absolutely. Absolutely. I love Flamborough. Small bull ring. There was some awesome stories in the one race that we got last 2021. Do I wish we got more time to actually see them on it? Yes. Will they ever go back if something crazy happens? I don't believe that NASCAR has any interest in going to there. Peterborough, Sauble. It sucks. Yeah, I don't think there is any. I don't think so. I think you're right. I don't think there is an actual airport anymore either. I think Edmonton isn't in use as an airport. I don't think it is, which is fine. I mean, we can move on from that. It got redeveloped into some kind of shopping and industrial. I think, I believe you're right. I believe I remember seeing that. So Flamborough, NASCAR has high standards, and I know that they didn't like the wall in 3 and 4. And if you saw the modified race there last year with a car that flew over it and actually hit somebody, you can understand why they wouldn't have liked that. Obviously, in 2021, they had to try and get wherever they could. Same with 2020. So, unfortunately, from NASCAR perspective, I understand why they don't go back there. The pit road being outside of the track, I think, is also something that they're not really fans of. So, I understand why it's not there. But for me, I liked Flamborough. Did I like it more than Edmonton? Did I like it more than Barrie or Auto Chartier? I didn't. I think I have no idea what that is. Not sure what you're talking about, but yeah, I'm not sure. NASCAR needs to cut ties with Edmonton after the. Yeah, I'm not actually sure. I've not heard about that. So, if there's something like that, that's pretty bad. If you can divulge, I'm not sure. So yeah, Flamborough. Yeah, I'll stick it there. I mean, I still liked it, but I don't think you can link it in here. I don't think you can, but I wouldn't go posting it in the link here if you can. I don't know if you have me on other social media, but CamK Racing on social media, and you should be able to find it there. Especially, you shouldn't be posting that because it would more than likely get the channel in trouble if there is NSFW on it. So obviously we're going to the next track here now. If you're going to talk pre-paving in like 2013, 2012, 2014, I would have put Delaware in not a fan. But the last couple of years that we've gone, the racing has been phenomenal. I think maybe just having it as the fall brawl in that time of the year, Delaware Speedway is now. I'm sorry, Eastbound Park, but boom, 100%. Okay, I'll check there. I can check that afterwards. Easily. Delaware Speedway is especially the last two finishes that we've had there. Actually, the last like 3 or 4 finishes we've had there have been absolutely amazing. That Fall Brawl weekend is a absolute hit. There's so much good stuff that happens during that weekend with the APC series, the Super Stocks. You know, no, it's okay. I know his channel. I'll definitely check it out. Yeah. I mean, honestly, Riegser, though, I think if you'd agree with me, but if you go back to like some of the older races were not great there. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. Okay. That's okay. Yeah, it's cool. I'll definitely have to check it out for sure. Okay, so now comes the real question here. GP3R. So Delaware, as I told you, Delaware is one of my favorite tracks ever. But only because the racing has been so good recently. GP3R, though, so I've been. YTW, how you doing? Haven't seen you in a while. So this is it, right? GP3R is the mecca right now. That's the gold standard in terms of events. We went last year. That thing, like, if you guys haven't been, you need to go. GP3R, Trois Rivières, holy moly, you wouldn't believe it's Canadian racing. It feels like Formula One. It feels like a big-time NASCAR Cup Series event. It's awesome. Dominic Fougere and that team there know how to put on an event. The sponsors that they have, the programming, like the other racing that's there that weekend, it is great. Now, obviously, last year sucked because it was 41 degrees, and I'm not great when it gets to like 41 degrees in terms of weather. But to me, we're talking favorite tracks here. Now, I'm not talking if I can see everything at the racetrack. I'm talking what I like in a racetrack. And the tight corners, the narrowness, especially going through the archway, Trois Rivières is my number one. It's my number one for that reason. The prestige of this event, and I love the absolute pouring into under the archway. Is one of the most epic parts of a race. It's like Mount Panorama in a way. Like, it's so unique. It's like Princess Gate at Exhibition Place. Yeah, dude. Owl, the dirt cars flying around at GP3R are amazing. And actually, GP3R is back this weekend, or in 2 weekends, and they're having Travis Pastrana's Nitro Rallycross there as well. YTW, doing great, buddy. Glad to have you back. So for me, easily, it's up there. Now, Jukasa. Okay. We're talking all things considered here. Now, Jukasa is closed. It's not permanently closed. It's closed. When I say not permanently, it means it's still standing. I will admit, I wasn't in love with the racing. I didn't love the racing. Facility, track surface, great. Racing, not so much. And that's across the board. I saw multiple races. I don't know. I don't know if it was just the Pinty's cars didn't really work there, but I mean, I saw a couple, but you know, it's tough. Honestly, I do. I like, GP3R is back for 2023. That was already confirmed. Again, Owl, there's been a bunch of confirmations that I've already made today. That we already know Schweiken is back. We already know GP3R is back. We already know, Eastbound Park. We already know, did I say Oshweekino's already? Delaware. No, GP3Rs is just getting one right now, but it's all weekend long. That's why we say 4th, 5th, and 6th. More than likely Sutherland. iCar we already know is confirmed, and CTMP more than likely confirmed. Next, so for me, Jacasa, honestly, for the racing only, I'm going to say meh. Facility, even higher. Okay? I know a lot of people might go, oh my God, what's Cam thinking? Again, there's criteria here to my tier list. It's not just, I don't like it for this, or I don't like it for that. There's specific reasons. Now, next, I don't remember as much. I don't remember as many races here, and all of them I don't remember really being memorable. The track was nice. I liked the track, but for me, Kawartha is kind of a meh. And Jason Hathaway, I think, closed this one as well, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm going to go with meh, honestly. They're using the dirt oval? Wow, awesome. I can't wait to see it, man. It's going to be sick. Yeah, Kawartha Downs, man. I love speedways. I want more Ontario tracks, but I'll be honest, I just don't remember a lot of the races there, and that's part of the problem. I mean, if you can't remember what's happened in the finales compared to, say, Jukasa finales, that's always kind of a hard bit. And then I think it's also about like the timing of the races that you do see. So Jukasa did get a couple of races, so I guess you could say like the fall race typically was always better than the spring race. But I'm still going to say meh on that. Same with Kawartha. And it goes lower on the list because I just don't really remember a lot of races. And the ones that I did see, I don't remember a ton of crazy, interesting things happening. Now, this should be interesting because the next one is Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Now, of course, we went there when the Xfinity Series, back then was known as the Nationwide Series, raced. I believe the Busch Series, the final year of the Busch Series, still raced there as well. And this has been one of the biggest cries for help, I think, from the racing community. I thought I just saw a question there, but it looks like it disappeared. Honestly, do you think that Trois Rivières needs to hold dirt track racing events on the dirt level? Sure. More racing, the better. Riegser says Kawartha is relatively forgettable, but the racing product was decent. I honestly don't even remember Riegs. Like, I remember the 2008 one, the Z-Line Designs 250, and I remember that Hathaway won because it was rain shortened. That's the one that I remember. So, and that's kind of a problem, right? So Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, for the Pinty series, it's up there. The crowd is phenomenal. Do I like it more than GP3R? No, I'm sorry. I can't say that GP3R is still for me because it's smaller of a track too. I think it fits the Pinty series product a little bit better, whereas I more now see Circuit Gilles Villeneuve for the Nationwide or Xfinity series, and of course F1. Also, by the way, I might be heading to Canada for the Toronto GP. Absolutely, buddy, come on up. Would love to have you. Friday, the Pinty series has its own show the entire day. I'll more than likely be there for that, and because it's the closest track to me. And then they're basically the Friday show. So get out there and they could do practice, qualifying, and race all on the same day. Then, of course, you stay for the IndyCar race on the Sunday. There's some stuff on the Saturday that they'll have, and I'm not sure they haven't confirmed yet what exactly is going to be there as companion. You're from Michigan? Right on, brother, right on. Appreciate you tuning in. Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. Now, this is a juicy one because we've already got CTMP as another permanent road course that we've got here, but I love CTMP. I really do. And this is going to be crazy to people, but I actually push it a little bit high. And it's probably because I've been there multiple times, but I'm actually going to put it above Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Could say I'm crazy. Absolutely could say it. But for me, CTMP elevation changes are the absolute shit. I love the elevation at CTMP. My favorite thing about it. When you see these cars rocket down the hill, it is amazing. I don't think that's going to happen. We did try doing tracks in the United States. The expense is just too much. So unless NASCAR South were to put something together and have hosted events again, that's the only way that I think that would happen. Or if the payout was like over $1 million, then probably we would have guys go down there. It's a hard sell, unfortunately. Autodrome Chaudière. Now, again, I've told you guys that Eastbound Park's up there with a favorite of mine. And Delaware. If you're talking like Michigan Speedway, these cars are not meant for that. They would not be allowed to do it on a speedway with these cars. They don't have the safety measures that they do on the speedways. That's the biggest thing. Could they do it? Sure. But I don't see it happening at all. The composites aren't like what you see. They're fiberglass bodies. So it's not going to... That's not going to go over very well. And of course, like we talked about, of course, money is the biggest thing. Honestly, dude, Flat Rock Speedway, 1,000%. Do it. I would welcome that. A short track, absolutely. No question asked. If you got like Glenn Stires would do that. The other thing, though, you have to remember, though, is travel costs right now are just too extreme for a lot of these teams. And these teams are not like their budgets are like maybe a 16th of what the Cup Series guys have. It's nuts how much it costs and how much these guys, they don't have the big time sponsorships that you'll see. Corporate sponsorships are really not very big here. We're trying to fix that though. And Flat Rock, I could see them doing something that with NASCAR International. You have to remember though that NASCAR International is really pushing this new series that they're going to have new chassis that are interchangeable that you can use. So there could be a lot of change happening for the Pinty series in the coming years, with those international chassis being usable for Mexico, for Europe, and for the Pinty series. Ultimately being able to run a championship series that's more than likely going to be, I would think, like an F1 type of deal. And I don't even know how many we would actually see in that series. I think it's going to be guys that have the most money out there. So next up, Autodrome Chaudière. Absolutely 1,000% a favorite track of mine. The racing here is phenomenal. It is one of the smallest bull rings out there. It is above Eastbound Park for me. I love it. I absolutely love it. NASCAR International is just going to be a major problem for the Pinty Series. I hope not. NASCAR International is what's taking it over. It used to be run by NASCAR South, and that's not going to be the case anymore. NASCAR International is now the guys that are in charge of it. So we'll have to see, man. I'm not sure. I hope not, but hopefully there'll be some things coming in to help. But 7:49, so we got to get going here. Circuit iCar, I have no problem telling people that my opinion. I'll see now. Of course, I chose the one that is not viewable, but iCar. I'd rather never go back to this track again. Listen, I'm not trying to offend anybody, and the Arsenault's put together a good track, but to me, I never want to see another race here. They've tried different layouts. The racing just, to me, is not very good. The last couple of races, it's been one guy out in front, and they just killed everybody else. Jim's right. They do at Chaudière. They have a good event, but they also do have the world's... Yeah, he is the most excitable announcer. One thing I'm not too crazy of is having urinals outside. That's not really something I'd be too interested in using, but Owl says Circuit Echo now has a short oval. It does, but it's another flat oval. So whether or not there'd actually be great racing is really hard to say. I have been told by drivers that it wouldn't be. Next up is Motorsports Speedway. I liked Motorsports Speedway, but remember back when I say that I liked it, I didn't have a lot of other options. So Motorsport Speedway, yes, for nostalgia purposes, I still like it. Racing-wise, it is more of a mad. There was some good finishes there. Not a lot of closeness, unfortunately. The races did get pretty spread out. Reeser says, Chaudier is the best oval after Delaware and Sunset, in my opinion. I can still visualize LaBaye and Lapsovic's battle in 2016. Phenomenal stuff. Reeser, you read my mind. That's the reason, is the battling. Even this past year with Mark Antoine Cameron, Andrew Ranger, DJ Kennington, that was an amazing battle. For that race victory. iCar has great restarts, but horrible long runs. Absolutely. And Rieger, there's not a lot of cautions at that track. So that's the only really exciting part. And then the only reason last year got exciting was because Tag was being in Tag and making it 3 wide. And I think that the respectable runs for Alex LaBaye coming through the field, Justin Arsenault coming through the field, that's what made it interesting. But that was basically it. New Hampshire. Count me as another place I never want to see again. Again, these cars are meant for certain things, and not fan of the racing that we had there. It was if you count the l'Abbé Lacroix crash as exciting on the final lap where it ruined Lacroix's championship, sure. But the racing itself was not good. These cars just did not work there. Now, if they had done something like, let's use the road track at New Hampshire, it probably would have been better. But the cars just weren't good. They were all spread out. There really wasn't a lot of battles. And the worst part about it is that we didn't get our Canadian guys announcing the race. We had at the time, Fans Choice U.S. announcers who had no idea how to pronounce the names of a lot of the drivers. It's kind of insulting when you have something like that because they don't know how to, they're not talking about the driver. Rieger's right. It was super disappointing. I was expecting it to be an absolute barn burner, that they were going to have close racing and pack racing, and it didn't happen. And I don't know if it was just the tires weren't a good choice or it was just too big of a track. I don't know, man. But I do agree, Reegs, in that it was hilarious yet also depressing. Kevin probably won't live that down, that he had that championship won that year, and unfortunately Ranger won the race, and then he got crashed on the front straightaway 10 feet from the start-finish line, and lost all those positions and basically lost the championship that way, and basically handed it to Ranger. So honestly, they should have picked a better track like Oswego, Watkins Glen, or oh my God, Stafford Speedway would have been wicked. Watkins Glen I've actually heard as well, and I think our series would put a better show on at Watkins Glen than they did at New Hampshire. It's also, I think it might be closer. If I'm not mistaken, it's New York, right? So it might actually have been a better choice. And they could run the boot. They could run the long version of the track. Like they really could do. I'd love to see our drivers go, because we've got some of the best road racers, really. And then you would probably get some Cup Series drivers in those races. I've said it for a while. I think that's it would be actually a really good idea to do that. And then all of a sudden you have your dirt race on the Tuesday or whatever, and then you got the guys, like if we did something where you go to the dirt and then you got the road course at Watkins Glen, we could possibly see some of our guys go into an Xfinity or truck race. A good announcer will learn the names and sponsors before the event. Bad announcers just mess up stuff and walk through it. I have dealt with both. Oswego is also the home of modified racing. See that? I love modifieds. I love modified racing. And they're the type of bull rings that work really well. The only problem with that is you get a lot of chaos, right? So, but I wouldn't think that that's any different from like going to Barrie Speedway or Chaudier. So Oswego could be a choice. Whether they ever decide to do it, hard to say. Grand Prix of Toronto. This is tough because I love Toronto, but I'm going to go meh here. I love it. I love this circuit so much. But again, when we talk about racing, the racing itself, there's been some good finishes. Last year's was not great. I was there. The top three stole it. I'd love a track where we could get the field a little more close. But there's a very big learning curve when it comes to Toronto. The cars that are not good are not good. The drivers that are the elite, show it. It comes to, I know the track more for IndyCar. I think Toronto, yes, thank you, Rigzer. It is. It's inconsistent. Some years it's fantastic. Others, like last year, it was not a great race at the front of the field. The middle of the pack was fantastic. Whether they showed that on the broadcast, I'm not sure. But the battling between Gannett and Scannell, Kennington, Gary Clute, Daniel Bois, that was really good. Really good. Oh, Dexter Stacey was involved in that too. Really good battles between 4th to 10th was great. But the front of the field, it was the top three, they ran away. Sutherland. This is formerly known as Wyant Group. And Auto Clearing. It's gone through several name changes. Sutherland Automotive, to me, is up there with Chaudier. It is definitely up there with Eastbound Park. It's better to me than Eastbound Park. Again, I really do like the Type Bull Rings. And based off the finishes last year, that's why it supersedes Eastbound Park for me. Sutherland, the race finishes last year, Tagliani, and that side-by-side finish with Andrew Ranger and DJ Kennington was one of the best finishes I've seen in this series ever. It's and this is talking all the way to the finish. The difference with Lapsevich and Labbé is that it kind of finished before the end of the race. This went right to the final corner of the final lap, and Andrew Ranger pulled it off, DJ Kennington pulled it off on the high side. That was an amazing finish. If it were me, based off of my finishes, it's like all the way up. And the other thing, too, exactly what Riekser says, is they didn't separate very much. There's not a room to get away, and they were in pack racing because the lap cars were getting lapped so consistently that they were always kind of in the way, bringing everybody closer together. And then you had names like Donald Teague, who's amazing on short tracks like that, winner at that racetrack, all being close together. So for me, then you had the rivalries last year with Tag and Brandon Watson. At Edmonton, you also had then the Kevin Lacroix and Marc-Antoine Cameron. It was Cameron and Gary. Was it Cameron and Gary Clute? Or it was, I think it may have been Cameron and Gary Clute that got together, and Teague and Renamato got together. Like, there was all sorts of craziness that happened in those two races. So definitely Sutherland is on my list. Now, Riverside, boy, oh boy, what goes in as my number 2? We haven't been there in a while, but Riverside, right behind Delaware. And the only reason that Riverside's not higher is because some of those years we only got 13 cars, 14 cars, and the fields, we had starting parks at some of those races. We haven't been there in many years as well. So I'm really hoping we get to go back because it is one of my favorites. I don't remember the crowds, but I know that everybody used to talk about, all the drivers say this is their go-to. That's the track that they want to go back to the most. It's been thought of as the Canadian Bristol. IWX 250 brings in some of the biggest names across all of racing. Owl, I do remember Exhibition Stadium, BMO Field is where NASCAR did a series of races. I do remember that. I've seen actually, they have some of those races, I believe, on YouTube that you can actually go watch and see. But yeah, easily to me, Riverside Speedway. The only reason, again, Delaware I've been to. I haven't been to Riverside, so I can't say I love it more than Delaware. Delaware to me was, again, live racing does help. Sunset. I also really like Sunset Speedway. I like it. It does have multi-grooves. It's IWK, IWX, IWK 250. I'm thinking of the sponsor of Travis Quapple, I think it was IWK. Sunset Speedway, easily up there. One of my favorites. You can see it. Everywhere you go. I think there's some improvements that could be made to the actual facility itself. I think washrooms. I think the infield, or not the infield, the garage area. I think some of that area they could probably work on. The people are great. Courtney, Jerry, the Todishes. There's a lot of changes happening there. If you don't know, Sunset Speedway is now once again a weekly series for NASCAR. Yes, exactly. Yep, absolutely. Register that the long runs can be a bit of a pain when you do get to Riverside, but that's the same for anywhere. So Sunset Speedway, again, I think I really like the track. I mostly like the facilities. I do have an issue a little bit with, and that's just really in general. A lot of the tracks are kind of run down. But I definitely think for being so close to the city, being in Innisfil, there's a lot that Sunset Speedway offers. And I think that with more promotion, and it could be on borrowed time too, because I've heard that there's a hospital going in down the road and that the track's not long for this world. Hopefully not, but Sunset Speedway, I like it. I like the races I see there. Is it a favorite? Because it's closest to me for speedway purposes, it and Peterborough are the closest speedways. It's going up there. It can't beat Chaudier. It's going to beat Sutherland and Eastbound Park, though, again, because of the distances of where they are. Now, we've got one left, and it's a track that is closed, unfortunately. It's a course that I couldn't find a logo of its most recent name of Motoplex Speedway. It's also known as Sun Valley Speedway out in Vernon, BC. Series went there for many years, and it was one of my favorite tracks. A little bit bigger of a track, really kind of a wide D front oval, which has like a bit of a curved front, which I think is very unique. The racing, though, wasn't my favorite. Even though I did see some good racing there, it is above Edmonton Indy in that I liked it more, but I was not particularly a fan. I think that if the series does end up going back out to BC, Penticton Speedway is the way to go. But we have to remember one thing is that RS1, that's their territory. BC is kind of their playground with Area 27 and Penticton. And I believe that their ownership group of Trevor Siebert, I don't think that they're going to be letting NASCAR come there because they've got their own series. Avion Motorsports, former Pinty series team. I think that's kind of their deal. But I'm curious, what's your choices and what's your number one and what is your what's your number one least favorite? So GP3R is leading the way as my favorite circuit in the NASCAR Pinty series with CTMP. But I'm going to have to go through and make some changes here because I'm looking back and going, is this my favorite circuit, my favorite place to go see a race? Well, CTMP is not my favorite place, not my favorite track over Delaware. Is it over Riverside? No. Is it over Chaudier? No. CTMP, again, it's one of my favorites, but I'm looking at it going, it's not up in terms of what I like. I like my short track racing. Don't get me wrong, I like road racing too, but it goes to the back because some of those races, like the spring race last year, sucked. Or was it last year? Yeah, it was the spring race where we got that crazy finish, but the whole race was a parade, unfortunately. And the field was completely outmatched by Kevin Lacroix. The Paillet cars had trouble, so they weren't in the competition for long. Ranger was out early with like a mechanical issue. The only thing that saved it was the finish between Gary and Kevin, and it didn't work out in Gary's favor. Do I think Circuit Villeneuve is better than... Do I enjoy it more than Sunset? Do I enjoy Sutherland more than Sunset? I'd say I do. Do I enjoy Delaware more than GP3R? No. I love the GP3R track. Riverside more than Delaware? No. Chaudier more than Riverside? I'm going to say no. Circuit Villeneuve, Sutherland? No. I think this is where I'm going to leave it. And that's kind of it. That's our tier list for this week. I want to thank people for coming in and getting involved. I want to see it on social media. At Cam K. Harris on Twitter, on Instagram, and on Facebook. You can find me at Cam K. Harris. Also post on the NASCAR Pinty Series page. I'll be posting mine. Love to see what your thoughts are, what your favorite tracks are, which one you want to make sure that you pass on so people know, hey, we got some great racetracks in Ontario, in Canada that our Pinty Series runs on. Obviously, we're going to find out real soon what the schedule is going to be for 2023. Hopefully, there'll be some additions to this and not some subtractions. But I appreciate each and every one of you. Riegser, Terry, ex-Royal Canadian, Owl, Jim Haynes, that were in the chat tonight. Wes was in there for a hot minute. Don't know if he's probably just following along. YTW Snips hanging out as well. We'll be back next week for episode number 31 for the NASCAR Pinty Series Power Hour. Thanks to our good friends at GeForce TV. Make sure you tune in for Race Rivals Race Chat with Adam Ross and Clinton Jeffrey tomorrow. And, of course, keep it tuned all season long. We'll be having, of course, the APC Series content, having hopefully a little bit more Garrett Teamersma vlogs on the channel, and hopefully we'll do a couple more shows. We'll have a couple of guests in the future. We're working on some new platforms and some new ideas to keep going. But this is the first of many tier lists hopefully we'll be able to do, and we'll do some ones with some drivers and favorite drivers and who had good seasons, who had bad seasons. I'll put it all together, and then we'll work on it each and every week. So definitely appreciate each and every one of you guys for coming out. It's always a lot of fun. Make sure you follow the NASCAR Pinty Series on social media. Caitlin Patrick and her team doing a fantastic job promoting the series, and you can see them, of course, at the top of the page at NASCAR Pinties on Twitter, at NASCAR_Pinties_series on Instagram, NASCAR Pinty Series on Facebook. Of course, you can find the NASCAR Pinty Series community page on Facebook as well. Just search NASCAR Pinty Series community. It's a page run by myself. Wes is an admin on there. We got a couple other good people involved in that. And of course, www.nascar.ca is the NASCAR site itself. It's got a lot of work that needs to be done to it, but